Hey there, welcome to Craft Central Designs. Today I'm sharing with you a beautiful summer popsicle theme wreath in beautiful colors with styrofoam colored popsicles and a beautiful multicolored bow. This one was so much fun and so easy to create. Welcome to my channel today, and I hope you will consider subscribing if you are not currently a subscriber. And please, if you would, give this video a thumbs up and share my channel with a friend or relative. And as well, leave me your comments. I appreciate these gestures as it helps my channel to grow. Okay, let me show you how I created this beautiful summer wreath. I have here a sign that I purchased on Temu. And I also have some snowball deco mesh that I purchased. The 3 snowball meshes there I purchased on craftoutlet.com. And I have there a 14-inch wire wreath frame from the Dollar Tree, but I ended up using a 12-inch one, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But this snowball mesh, the 3 colors, the pink orchid and that beautiful shade of green, were from craftoutlet.com. That one they call puffball mesh. Yes, puffball mesh. But snowball mesh, puffball mesh, whatever, it's all pretty much the same. I do have a plain deco mesh roll there. They're all 10-inch, by the way, and I purchased that at 40% off at Hobby Lobby. I have here this sign that I purchased on Temu, and I just within the past month or so decided to place a couple orders with Temu because their signs are really significantly less in cost than other sites or on Amazon. And they have a lot of selection. So I saw that sign. I thought it was really so cute. So I purchased it to create this wreath. These are styrofoam popsicles. I purchased this on that stem that you see there. It comes 2 popsicles on a stem from craftoutlet.com. Now, I only ordered 1 stem because I really wasn't sure. Was I going to like the popsicles or not? And I thought even if I like them, I could duplicate them by creating them myself with styrofoam. So I just got the 1 stem, and the color of them is a little bit kind of a peachy pink. So I had to end up changing the color on them, but I did like the popsicles. Okay, and I have here some paints because I am going to be creating these popsicles out of styrofoam, and I'm going to need to paint them because I only have 2, and I thought it would be best to have around 5 to place on the wreath. Now, I'm not going to be duplicating the shapes of the popsicles on the sign. I'm just going to be creating a standard looking popsicle as you see there in that particular shape. I'm going to be putting a little Mod Podge on the popsicles before I sprinkle a little bit of ultra fine white glitter on those popsicles, as you will see later on when we prepare the popsicles. Now, that's completely up to you if you want to create your own popsicles or you want to just order another stem or 2 from craftoutlet.com. Now, this sign, I believe, was 8 inches. It's smaller than the typical sign that you purchase to go in the center of a wreath. So therefore, I decided to go with a little bit smaller wreath frame, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. I have a wood round there because I contemplated adhering that sign to a wood round so it would sit more comfortably in a 14-inch wire wreath frame. And I thought about covering it with scrapbook paper, which you see there. But I ended up just opting to go with a 12-inch wire wreath frame, which I believe I purchased at some point in time at the Dollar Tree. So I have this beautiful ribbon that I purchased on craftoutlet.com, and it picks up beautifully the colors, or at least most of the colors in that sign that I had purchased on Temu. But I ended up using another ribbon that I had that was very, very compatible also to that sign. And I'll be showing you that in a little bit, because ultimately it's the one that I chose to put on the wreath. So I have a stack of pipe cleaners. Of course, you'll need the regular crafting tools, a hot glue gun, scissors, definitely some Mod Podge, and I thought about putting some florals on the wreath. So I just had some handy just in case I wanted to follow through with that, but ultimately I decided not to do that. But I'm showing you options there. You certainly could. It's a summer wreath. Putting, some pops of color with florals would certainly be, suitable for a summer wreath. But I'll show you what I ultimately decided to do with mine. Now, I decided to try painting these popsicles. They're made from a styrofoam that it's not a very porous styrofoam. It's more, the styrofoam is a little bit more on the dense side, which is good for the piece, but I ended up painting them, and I just wanted to show you that they're certainly very, they accept the paint very well. I'm going to go over the popsicles and how I made them in a bit, but right now I'm going to show you what I decided to do with the sign. I decided to go with this a little bit smaller wreath frame. It's 12 inches. The reason why it's white is because I spray painted it to use on another project, and I ended up not, so that's why it appears white. Now I'm going to be creating some bundles in the woodland method to go around that wreath. Now, I didn't want this wreath to appear huge, and because I'm using 10-inch wide deco mesh, after you do 24 to 26 bundles on a wreath with 10-inch mesh, it becomes a large wreath. And I was trying to keep the size of the wreath down a little bit because of that tin sign that is only 8 inches. So everything is relative. I was trying to keep everything a little bit on the smaller side. So I'll explain to you how I did that. But I ended up ending up with a good size wreath, but not as large as if I used a 14-inch wire wreath frame. I'm going to be creating some bundles to go on this wreath. Now, I mixed up my colors a bit, and I chose to use the woodland method on these bundles. And I'm going to be using 2 colors per bundle, so obviously 2 pieces per bundle. And I do go ahead and cut all my pipe cleaners ahead, but I'm just going forward here to show you how I created the woodland method bundles. So I roll up the ends of my deco mesh 2.5 to 3 times. I place a clip on it, factory edges on the left and right. I start by rolling up my edges, and then I move my fingers to the center, crawl down the center with my fingertips, and clip it on the other side. Now I'm doing the second piece. I roll it up 2.5 to 3 times, clip it, and see how I start my fingers out on the edges to get a nice roll, and then I move them to the center, crawl up the deco mesh with my fingertips, clip it, and now I'm going to put those 2 together. I kind of crisscross it, wrap a half of a pipe cleaner around that, and this snowball mesh makes the most beautiful application on this wreath frame. This is kind of the sister wreath, if you will, to my watermelon wreath. That was so beautiful in similar colors, but I didn't have the orchid on the watermelon wreath. This is a little bit different. So I created 22 bundles to place around that 12-inch wide wreath frame. Now I did mix up the combinations of my bundles between the 4 colors, but I made sure as I went along to make sure that I had a good variety of bundles to distribute the color throughout that wreath. Now this deco mesh is just plain. It's not a snowball mesh, but that's okay. You can mix your mesh. It's perfectly fine. If you ask me, it just creates visual interest. And you know, if you follow my channel, I just love mixing patterns and textures. So I'm just creating another bundle here in the woodland method. This time I'm putting a white piece with that gorgeous kind of orchid. I guess it's more of an orchid than a purple, but oh my goodness, it is the most yummy shade of purple or orchid, whatever we're calling it. But again, 22 bundles. Oh, I'm sorry. And I cut my pieces in 14-inch lengths. Sorry, I neglected to mention that. 14-inch lengths, 22 bundles. Now, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different here. I'm going to be using some 6-inch mesh, and I'm going to be mixing a 10-inch mesh and a 6-inch mesh on this wreath. And what I'm going to be doing with just these simple scrunches that you see me doing here is I'm going to be framing that tin sign with scrunches. They look like ruffles to me, ultimately. But what I'm going to be doing is creating some of these scrunches, I'm going to call them, and I'm going to place them around that tin sign as kind of a frame. And then they will be, of course, accompanied by these other bundles, the woodland method bundles, encircling them. If that made any sense whatsoever. I'll explain that better in just a moment. But I'm going to be applying my bundles right to the second from the inside wire. And I'm just simply place my woodland method bundles down, press it up against the wire of the wreath frame, twist it in the back nice and tight. And here I'm showing you what I'm talking about. On the inner ring, let's put it that way, the inner ring is going to be the scrunches. And then on the outer perimeter is going to be the woodland bundles, the woodland method bundles. Now you can see this creates, just by creating a single row all the way around with those bundles, you already have a good size wreath. So now what I'm going to do is I decided to place 2 of the little scrunches together in one bundle. And I'm going to be creating 6 bundles of the scrunches with pink and orchid. And then 6 in white and the very light orchid. Now I have a deeper orchid and a very, very light orchid. These scrunches are made, again, from this 6-inch wide deco mesh. And I cut those as well in 14-inch sections. Now, as I mentioned, what I'm going to be doing is creating a kind of border for that tin sign that's going to set right down into the deco mesh wreath. I'm going to show you how I made the bundles very, very simply. This mesh is, the white one is from Hobby Lobby, so it's a nice sturdy deco mesh, minimal fraying. And then the very light orchid one was a Michaels mesh, which I noticed that Michael's mesh is a frayer. So I didn't really pay attention to that so much before because I don't really buy much mesh from Michael's. But I realized in using this light orchid mesh from Michael's that it does fray. So I put those two scrunches together in one bundle. I'm going to do 6 of those in those 2 colors and then 6 in the pink and the deeper orchid. And I'm going to just alternate those and place them around my tin sign. I'm showing you this once again. I put the curvy side of the deco mesh against the table, and I just take my fingertips and go up the mesh, scrunching it as I go right down the center. And I put those two colors together. Again, the light orchid and the white, and then the pink and the deeper orchid. 6 each. And that will encircle that 8-inch tin sign very well. Okay, it's time for the popsicles. Now, you can do this step or not do this step. Either you order them from craftoutlet.com, or if you're like me and you just love to create things and have fun figuring out as you go along, that's me. So I decided I can create my own popsicles. I can do this. So I got a piece of styrofoam. Now, Dollar Tree carries styrofoam. You could easily pick this up at the Dollar Tree. So what I did was I used my popsicle from craftoutlet.com as a template. And I'm going to cut out 3 pieces of styrofoam around the same size as the popsicle that I got from craftoutlet.com. So I cut 3 pieces in the approximate size. Then I took a sharp knife from the kitchen and my little X-Acto knife. And I said, you know what? I can shape those popsicles with this X-Acto knife and the kitchen knife. And that's exactly what I did. So I just looked at the popsicle from craftoutlet.com just to give me an idea how to shape my popsicle. And I proceeded to take my styrofoam and shape it into a popsicle shape. It was fun. Now, the styrofoam that you get in the craft store and the styrofoam that you get at Dollar Tree is a little bit more porous, and you will notice that. But it doesn't show so much once you get the little sprinkling of glitter on there. And I personally was fine with the porousness, is that a word? Of the styrofoam. Now, you could just completely do the popsicles and not purchase any from craftoutlet.com. I'll put the measurements of the pieces that I cut out in the description box if you want to make your own. And just skip the craftoutlet.com step. Now, I don't think they had this sign on craftoutlet.com. It's a Temu tin sign. But what I can tell you, as I mentioned before, is I decided to try Temu, and I actually have placed 2 orders with them, and I got quite a number of signs, and they do have ribbon considerably cheaper than Amazon. So I'm just saying I have not been disappointed with anything from Temu as of yet. So I took some craft sticks, and I needed to cut them down to be a little bit more narrow. Not a problem. You can do that with your scissors. So I cut my craft sticks in the shape that I needed for them to be for my popsicles. Now, I have a paintbrush here, obviously, and I'm going to paint my popsicles. And I just dab my paint on and create this beautiful color of popsicle right here, this beautiful orchid color. Now, I do later, after the paint is dry, I do apply, as I'm going to show you here, some Mod Podge to the popsicle. And that's what I'm doing here. I just dab it on with a sponge applicator. And then I have a couple of different white glitters. They're ultra fine. So you're not going to get like a chunky glitter, like the kind of glitter you would use for, say, for example, Christmas decor. This is very fine. It's basically just going to give the popsicles a little bit of shimmer. So the Mod Podge obviously is so the glitter will adhere. So I just took my glitter and tapped the bottle to just sprinkle on some glitter. And I did that on the top, the sides, and the bottom. I didn't do the underside of the popsicle because that was going to be just placed on the wreath. I didn't see any need to. I did paint it, but I didn't put glitter on it. That's up to you if you prefer to. So I'm showing you there. I did all sides. Now you could see the popsicle's a little more porous, but hey, this is a wreath and it's a styrofoam popsicle and it's just fun to do. It doesn't have to look, exactly like a real popsicle. We're just having fun making a summer wreath. Now, there's the other ribbon that I debated. Oh my goodness, back and forth. Just couldn't decide. You can see there that ribbon has blue, which matches the blue in that popsicle. But it doesn't have yellow like the other one. But the other one doesn't have blue, it just has yellow. Oh my gosh, back and forth. Couldn't decide, but I'm glad I ultimately decided on the ribbon with the swirls. It is so pretty, but I actually did. Before I made that big decision, I actually made a bow out of that other ribbon with the yellow on it. And I'm going to show you that, but look how pretty this ribbon is. Both of those ribbons are craftoutlet.com. I think that ribbon there in my hand would be so pretty for Easter. I don't know, it just seems very Eastery to me. I'm not sure that's a word, but I'm always making up words, as you all know if you follow my channel. Okay, so I'm going to create about a 10-inch tail here. I'm going to create a 3-loop on each side bow for the base of my bow. So I fold my loops over, and I want to say it's about 10 inches in length each loop. I'm holding in the center with my thumb and my index finger. I fold my loop over with the same 10 inches. I shape my loops as I go along so I can see how I'm progressing in creating my bow. I twist my ribbon because, of course, that ribbon has a good side and then the other side. Fold it over again, 10 inches, pinch it in the center, scrunch it up, and hold it nice and tight with my thumb and my index finger. If I need to adjust my loops, I can just pull forward or I can back it up. Now I'm going to create loop number 2 on the right side, fold it over and scrunch it, shaping my loops as I go along. Now we're going to do loop number 3 on the left side, twist my ribbon, fold it over, scrunch it in the center. I do have bow tutorials, multiple bow tutorials. Check out my playlist. I take it nice and slow, step by step, how to create bows like I do. Here it's sped up a bit, but I'm just giving you the basics here. If you feel that you want to learn how to create a bow like I do, check out those tutorials. You could as well use a bow dabra or an easy bow maker, or maybe you have a method of creating bows that you already use. But this wreath deserves a gorgeous bow. And so what I've done is create 3 loops on each side, and then I created 1 smaller loop on each side to rest on top of the 3 loops on each side. And I place a pipe cleaner over all of those loops, going right down the center to hold all my loops together. Now I'm going to create one single loop going right down the center. And how I do that is I simply roll that ribbon under and then slip it underneath my thumb, and I secure it with my thumb in there. By the way, those single loop on each side that rests on the 3, that one was a little bit smaller. I want to say around 8 inches in length if you want to measure out your loops. The loop down the center is probably around 4 inches, just for reference sake. Okay, now we're going to secure that center loop, twist the pipe cleaners in the back, shape my loops, and now I'm going to cut off the tail from the spool, making sure I leave around 10 inches. And then I'm going to take my tail that's sitting on the top, poke it right through the center loop, pull it down, marry it up with the other tail, and now you have a beautiful bow, which I did not use on this wreath, but I made the other bow exactly the same way. 3 loops on each side for the base, 1 loop on each side resting on each of the 3 loops on each side, and 1 single loop going right down the middle. The larger loops are 10 inches, the smaller ones 8 inches, and then the one in the center about 4 inches. The tails are 10 inches. Now here we have my little scrunches. And I had this idea. I don't know if I've ever mixed bundles in quite such a way, if that makes any sense, before. But I had this idea to frame this sign, and I have done that before with Dollar Tree signs. Sometimes I just frame a sign and glue the deco mesh on it just to jazz it up a bit. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrunch up my little scrunches, and I'm going to show you this in just a second. But I don't want my pipe cleaners to show any more than need be. So what I do is I put them in my hand and I scrunch it, and then I twist it at the base. And I'm going to show you this here in just a second. Then I'm just going to take my hot glue. I'm going to show you this. Okay, see how I scrunch it? Really, really tight. And deco mesh is very compliant. It will stay like I scrunch it. And now see how I twist it by holding it at the base? What this does is it collects the deco mesh, and it helps to hide the pipe cleaner that's holding those 2 pieces together. So I'm just going to take the hot glue, put it on the pipe cleaner, press it up. I'm sorry, my hand's a little out of frame there, but I'll get back in here in just a second. And I'm just going to place the glue. There we go. Place the glue right on the pipe cleaner, press it up, and I'm just going to go around the perimeter of that sign and apply those scrunches. I alternate the scrunches, the pink and the orchid, and then the light orchid and the white, then the pink and the orchid, and so on. And the reason why that I did this, and here it is, all covered all the way around with the little scrunches. Now I'm going to be clipping off all those tails, but first I'm going to create a means to attach the sign to the wreath frame. I have 2 full-size pipe cleaners and 2 little pieces of felt. I'm just going to place some hot glue down. I ended up going back in with a little bit of tacky glue just to be sure that that holds up well if it's outdoors. And I did that on both sides. Now, back to what I was saying. The reason why I wanted to apply my scrunches right to the sign is that 10-inch deco mesh tends to be quite full. And I didn't want my scrunches to just get lost down inside of there. if I attach them to the wreath frame. Now, I'm thinking that's what would have happened had I attached them to the inner wire of that wreath frame. So I elected to attach them to the sign, and then I'm just going to rest the sign down in there very gently. Now, if any of these, during the process of pulling away the deco mesh and squashing it down in there, if any of them come loose from the tin, you can just simply apply a little bit of glue and adhere them back. Now, see how my scrunches are sitting toward the top of the wreath now? Had I applied them to the wire, they would be way down in there. And I think the sign would have just gotten lost, if you will, if you understand what I mean by that. And I wanted to keep the sign and the framing of the sign with the scrunches more toward the surface of the wreath. And this is just something, an idea that I had, and I think it turned out really pretty. Having that variance of the textures, the woodland method rolls combined with the scrunches. Now, obviously, I need to attach this in the back. So I just found my pipe cleaners that are attached to the sign, and I twisted those on there. And I need to go around as well with some wire cutters and snip off and clean up the back, snip off the excess pipe cleaners and poke them down inside of there so they don't scratch the surface wherever this wreath is going to be hanging. The colors on this wreath are so pretty. I love this snowball mesh. And I'm showing you here that I'm just trying to go around and clean up. But that's going to be a big job to clean up all this wreath. And then I do as well go around, and any fraying that I have, I just clean the whole thing up and make it look very pretty. Now, again, as I mentioned, I want my sign to really show. And being that it's a smaller sign, I didn't want it to get, for lack of a better word, swallowed up, if you know what I mean by that, by all that gorgeous deco mesh. So that's my solution to that. And that's how I chose to do mine. So here we have those two bows. Again, pretty ribbon, but this is the one that I chose to go with. And I think it was a good decision. Now, me being me, of course, I have to add a bow. So I decided to make cute little white bows to put at the base of the popsicles. So I got an all-fray ribbon, which I love to pick up at Walmart. And I just created some tiny bows. Now, you do you on how you like to create your bows. I like to create a figure 8. And I just take a glue gun, pop a little dab of glue in 2 spots on that bow, and then just press it together. And then I take another little piece of the same ribbon, fold it in half, and wrap it around that bow to give a finishing touch to the center of the bow. Sorry, my hand's a little out of frame there, but I'm just folding that little piece of ribbon in half. I wrap it around, glue it on the back side, and then I just hot glue that to my little styrofoam popsicles. Now you can skip the bows on the popsicles. You do it or not do it, whatever you like. I ended up painting 2 of my popsicles pink. And again, that is the most frustrating thing. The 400 shades of pink in the world, trying to match. It was very tedious trying to do that. But I tried to get as close as I could with the pinks. The orchids were a little bit easier. So I did 2 orchid, 2 pink, and 1 of that yummy, luscious green color. So, so pretty. Similar to the green and the deco mesh and the green and the sign. Now, I do take a good bit of time to rearrange my deco mesh so that I'm able to see the sign, so that I'm able to see the little scrunches that frame the sign. I do place my popsicles at, I place one at 12, one at 2 and 10, and the other at 8 and 4. The others at 8 and 4. Now I'm going to place my tails of my bow at 12 and 6 o'clock. I'm going to press it down at 6 o'clock on the bow, reach my fingers through the deco mesh. Look at that bow. That is so pretty. Picks up all the colors in that sign. But I'm going to be placing my bow at 6 o'clock, as I mentioned. And I just dig my fingers down the deco mesh, find a wire, wrap the pipe cleaner around the wire, and there you have it. Now you can see there where I place my popsicles, 12 o'clock, 10 and 2, 8 and 4. And the bow goes at 6 o'clock. And I do hot glue my popsicles on. They are as light as a feather. I don't think it's necessary to use tacky glue, but if you like, you can go ahead and do that. Now I just take a full-size pipe cleaner and I attach it to the top of my wreath in the back on the wreath wire for a hanger. And here you have a very colorful, very pretty summer wreath in a popsicle theme. I love this one. I think it's just so pretty and so fun. And like I said, it just seems to be like the sister wreath to my watermelon wreath. And I really, really love that wreath. So I'm loving this one too. And I hope you do as well. If you're not currently a subscriber, I hope you will consider becoming one. And as well, let me know what you think of this popsicle wreath. Okay, until next time, you all take care.